as you know, unless you've been living under a rock the last several weeks or so, it's been a lot of racial divide in this country. Of course, we've had the Black Lives Matter protests. We saw what happened to George Floyd, that atrocity, murder, lynching, Ahmaud Arbery. And, of course, we had the Rayshard Brooks situation that took place, sadly, last week, and he was just laid to rest. Protests everywhere. There's a lot of people that are angry. Sadly, there are some bad actors out there, the riots, the burning down of buildings. And, of course, right here in our backyard, we had an officer that was shot in the neck and is still fighting for his life. So with all that stuff going on, with all the racial division that is in this country right now, and there's plenty of it, we have the President of the United States who decides to retweet one of his supporters chanting out white power. That's right, folks. You can't make this stuff up. The video was shared by the president showing several pro-Trump seniors in Florida having an exchange with some anti-Trump protesters and supporters of Black Lives Matter. In the first 10 seconds of this video, one of the president's supporters repeatedly shouted out, "White power," at the demonstrators. I want you to have a listen to this.
White power! Yes, there you go, white power.
There you go. He was wearing a Donald Trump shirt in his golf cart, chanting out white power. And by the way, if you watch the video, it happens within the first few seconds. It's right there. Now, Donald Trump has a history of not calling out these people. I don't care whether he was a Trump supporter or not. If you're one of those people that's going to scream white power, same thing if you screamed out black power. If you're one of those people that screams that out, you're a racist. You're a horrible human being. You're a racist. Do we remember what Donald Trump did back in 2017? Of course you do, right? Unless you're a Trump supporter, then you'll defend this. Do we remember the violence that took place in Charlottesville, where we had neo-Nazis, literally Klan members, saying, "Blood and soil, Jews will not replace us"? And then Donald Trump commented on that the following day, the day after a woman was killed and run over by a white supremacist. This is what Donald Trump had to say within 48 hours of that whole Charlottesville mess. Have a listen to this.
You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
So, by the way, the President of the United States, speaking of fine people, the President of the United States called those people that he retweeted, quote, over the weekend, including the man who said white power, he called them great people. How do you defend this? How do you defend this if you work in Donald Trump's administration? Well, you can lie. That's nothing new when it comes to people in Donald Trump's administration, including the press secretary, Kayleigh, at it again this morning on Fox and Friends. Have a listen to the way she defended the President of the United States retweeting one of his supporters yelling out white power. Have a listen to this.
The president did not hear that phrase in that portion of the video, and when it was signaled to him that this was in there, he took that tweet down. But he made very clear to me that he stands with the people of the villages, our great seniors, men and women in the villages who support this president. He stands for them, and his point in tweeting out that video was to stand with his supporters, who are oftentimes demonized. So we didn't hear that portion. He took it down, but he does stand with the men and women of the villages.
All right, so here's my statement on that. And by the way, I think she's a complete liar. And I think the president, well, I don't think, I know the president's a liar as well. But let's just go with that logic for a second. Kayleigh, press secretary, is it not the duty and the responsibility of the President of the United States to know exactly what he is retweeting out to his, how many 80 million followers plus? Is it not the responsibility of the president to know what he is doing? This isn't the first time the president retweeted something that was beyond controversial and disgusting. And by the way, it's not like it's somebody way in the background or it's really difficult to hear. It's right there front and center. You have a guy driving in a golf cart wearing a Trump shirt screaming out white power, and you're telling me the president didn't see that? And that is Kayleigh's defense? Oh, well, he didn't hear that, but the second he heard it, he took it down. Is there anybody out there that buys that narrative? Really? Anybody? And then CNN Jake Tapper yesterday asked Secretary of Health and Human Services Alex Azar about that video. Listen to what Azar said. Have a listen to this.
I've not seen that video or that tweet, but obviously neither the president, his administration, nor I would do anything to be supportive of white supremacy or anything that would support discrimination of any kind.
Yeah, even though Donald Trump's father was literally a Klan member, and even though Donald Trump said there are good people on both sides in Charlottesville, and, you know, the president has been sued time and time again for the way he treated African Americans who were living in his complexes. But no, you're absolutely right, sir. Alex Azar, you're telling me Alex Azar, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, the biggest story of the day yesterday, all over social media, all over the news networks. It was literally the biggest story in the country. And you're telling me, Alex Azar, that you didn't see the video and you didn't know anything about it? So you have the press secretary who's saying, well, the president just didn't hear it. He didn't hear it. You know, as soon as he heard that one of his supporters said white power, he took it down. And then you have the Secretary of Health and Human Services says, oh, I don't know anything about the video. I didn't see it. Folks, are we that stupid as people to believe this nonsense and this rhetoric? If you're a Donald Trump supporter, that's fine. That's totally cool. That's fine. If you I don't agree with you, but if you support the president for whatever reason, fine. But I'm asking you just to take off that Donald Trump Republican, staunch supporter, whatever you are, for just a moment. Are you okay with this? It's a very simple question. Are you okay? Let's just pretend Donald Trump is a Democrat, if I have to do it that way. Are you okay with the President of the United States retweeting something out with one of his supporters saying white power? Let me phrase this a little differently so many of you Trump supporters might be able to understand what I'm getting at here. Let's rewind 5 years ago. Let's just say Barack Obama on social media retweets a video of a few of his African-American supporters that are yelling out black power. And after he tweets it out, the press secretary in Barack Obama's administration is asked about it, and the press secretary says, well, he didn't hear it in the video. What would you say to that? Would you be okay with that? Would you be okay with that explanation? Would you just move on and say, oh, Brian, you're making too big of a deal about this? Or would you take my side and would you say the president and his administration are lying? He knew exactly what he was doing. He used horrible, horrendous judgment, and he's trying to rev up his base because this is probably his base. What would you say to that if Barack Obama did that? Now, try to use that same logic when it comes to Donald Trump. Let's see if you could be intellectually honest. And let's call it for what it is. If Barack Obama did that, I would say it was horrendous judgment and a horrible thing to do. But Barack Obama never did that. Donald Trump did. He retweeted out one of his white supporters screaming out white power. And it's not audio that you couldn't hear. It's not audio or a 5-minute video. It's a very short video. It's within the first few seconds of the video where you have one of his supporters yelling that out, and it couldn't be yelled out at a worse time. It couldn't be yelled out as a worse time in society today with all the racial divide that we are going through. And that's what the president decides to do. And it's disgusting, and it's despicable, and I hope that you agree with me. But if you don't agree with me, I'll take your phone calls because I'd love to hear you defend the President of the United States retweeting one of his supporters yelling out white power. I'd love to hear you defend that. I'd love to hear you say that you have absolutely no problem with it. I'd love to hear your explanation because maybe I need to be educated. Maybe I'm wrong when it comes to this stuff. The number to call if you want to be a part of this conversation is 702-257-5396. Again, if you want to be a part of the conversation, your thoughts on Donald Trump retweeting one of his supporters, yelling out white power, and then you have members of his administration making excuses for him. Oh, he didn't hear it. As soon as he heard what was in that video, he took it down from Twitter. And then you have Secretary of Health and Human Services, Alex Azar, who is a complete Nimrod, who says, oh, I didn't see the video. I didn't hear it. Is there anybody, and I mean anybody, that believes them, that believes their explanation? It's not like this is the first time the President of the United States didn't call out someone for being a white supremacist or call out someone for being a racist. We heard the audio that I just played in Charlottesville. We just heard it when he said there are good people on both sides. And now you have Donald Trump's administration playing cleanup. Where does it stop? Is this the norm now? Is this something that we should just expect from the president? Is it just, it's the new norm? It's okay. It's okay for the president to retweet a white supremacist. What else would you call somebody that screams the term white power? What else would you call that individual but despicable and a racist and a white supremacist? That's who they are. That's exactly who they are. And by the way, what were the other people doing in that video that was so bad? Holding up a Joe Biden sign? Holding up a Black Lives Matter sign? Is that so bad? Really? Is it so bad that when somebody holds up a Black Lives Matter sign, that an appropriate response, if you disagree with the Black Lives Matter movement, should be white power? Really? I just don't understand it. I don't get it. Number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-257-5396. Again, if you want to join the program, give us a buzz, 257-5396. I mean, really, guys, I really don't know what else to say here as far as this is the new norm of the President of the United States in a time in our country where we have more racial divide than you could ever imagine. Here's what I want. You might say to yourself, Brian, the president isn't perfect. What do you want from the President of the United States? What do you want? Well, here's what I want. Here's what I would say to that. If, in fact, the President of the United States didn't hear it, which, by the way, I don't buy, but if the President didn't hear one of his supporters chant out white power, then why can't he just face the music and say, I'm very sorry if my retweet offended anybody. I disavow that Donald Trump protester. Or I should say Donald Trump supporter. I disavow him. Why can't the president do that? Why can't he say that? Why can't he call out somebody like that? That's all I'm asking. Let me ask you guys, is that asking too much? I'm sorry for putting out that retweet, but I believe the president knew exactly what he was doing. And is it that far off to ask the president to show a little bit of responsibility and understand what he is retweeting before he retweets it out? That's if he's telling the truth, which I don't think he is.